Trade wars aren't just about numbers, tariffs, and deals. They're about power and control, and most importantly, emotion. And when decisions at this scale are made by pure emotion as opposed to intelligence, the consequences can be catastrophic. In this video, I'll break down the facts of the trade war between Canada and the United States and why emotional intelligence is so critical for leaders at this level. Stick around, this video isn't just going to be about the trade wars, it's going to be about what you can do to apply more emotional intelligence into your life using this example that is playing out on the world stage. The top 10% of the richest people in the world have higher IQs than the top 1% of the richest people in the world. So what is it that 1% has that the 10% doesn't? And the answer is that they have emotional intelligence. They've been able to remove themselves from making emotional decisions, because every time we make a decision from a place of emotion, we usually end up making mistakes. My name is David Haas, and for the past 20 years, this is exactly what I've dedicated my life to doing, to understanding what buttons are inside me so that I can step out of the emotional responses that get me into all kinds of trouble and make a decision from a place of clarity. When we learn to undo these emotional triggers, we can step back and see the broader picture so that we can maximize our potential. This channel is where knowledge meets implementation, because knowledge without implementation is just entertainment. So if you're ready to go beyond just entertainment, stick around as we break down this trade war between the United States and Canada, free from our emotional responses. So the United States and Canada are essentially in a trade war. Trump has put a 25% tariff on Canada. Canada's retaliated with tariffs. And I think the biggest thing that this is really highlighting for everybody is what happens when someone has a button pushed in them. And essentially all Canadians have had their buttons pushed by Donald Trump. Even Donald Trump supporters. Doug Ford was on TV yesterday basically bashing Trump and calling him a buffoon and all of this stuff. And all of these responses, even Trudeau's retaliatory tariffs, even Pierre Poilievre wants retaliatory tariffs, all of these are emotional responses, because essentially we have a best friend, which is the United States, and they have said that this relationship is no longer good for us anymore, and we don't want to be your best friends. And that hurt. And because of that hurt, Canadians are responding with emotion. And I've been kind of releasing a lot of content about this, even though I'm not really a political commentator. And I'm getting lots of pushback from Canadians who are saying I'm a traitor and all this. And all I'm doing is trying to step back from the emotion of this argument. And when you do that, if you can step back behind the anger, because essentially it's like, I feel it too. It's like what did Canada ever do to the United States? And I think the first thing you can do after you step out of the anger and the wanting to fight back, you can then recognize the fight that we're actually in. And so we are essentially in a fight with a 600-pound gorilla. And if a 600-pound gorilla challenges you to a fight, it's probably not the best idea to just go out swinging. And that's kind of what Canadian politicians have done. That's what Canadian citizens have done, is they just come back swinging. But this is a fight that we cannot win against the United States. Let me just kind of get into why I believe that, because I'm stepping out of this emotion. I have no skin in this game, right? And so as I step out of that emotion, I recognize that the Canadian economy basically exists because of the United States. And if we really see that, we can come to a more reasonable course of action than just fighting back. This is an emotional response. And so if we look at the Canadian economy, it's like here in Windsor, where I'm from, we have a Chrysler plant. That Chrysler plant produces, let's just say, I think it's around 1,400 minivans they make a day. And I think they're making another car now as well. But of those 1,400 minivans, 14 of them stay in Canada, right? And so if the American trade deal, if we went up to war against America and we eliminated that trade, Canada would be completely screwed. Our economy has been expanded and created by being partnered with the United States. And this is a big problem. And this is where I think there is actually opportunities for Canadians. If we can get out of this pushing back and wanting to fight back, what we can do is we can go to Donald Trump and say, okay, well, what is it you need Canada to do? You basically said that you don't like our deal anymore. So what is it that you want us to do? And figure out what it is that he wants. Now we will get into what if he wants Canada, and that will be where we'll have to draw a really, really hard boundary. If we can appease him and basically say, hey, let's give you what you need. Let's secure our border. Let's stop letting in this immigration. Let's end this woke agenda, that is like ruining both of our countries. If we can just appease him and renegotiate our deal with him, then we can go about doing our daily business. But then when we're in that daily business, we can then begin saying, hey, thank you, Donald Trump, because you pointed out a major weakness in Canada, which is we are insanely reliant on the United States. And in order for Canada to become a rich country, we need to be looking for different trading partners. We need to expand our production. We need to be able to put the infrastructure in place to refine our own oil, to ship our oil to other countries, and not be so heavily focused on the United States. Because if you're in business, you only have one customer, and that customer essentially holds all of the cards, you're going to be screwed. And so now this is what Donald Trump has highlighted for Canada. It's like, we hold all the cards, and the cards that we're holding, we're no longer happy with the deal that we have, so we have to change it. Canada essentially has no choice. We cannot turn off our customer. They're the only customer. And if we did, we would completely collapse. So what I'm suggesting, and what I think would probably be the best course of action, removed from this emotion, would be to say, okay, we're kind of screwed here. Let's give the guy what he wants. And as with that relationship continues to grow, we continue to look at where we can expand and where we can find more customers. This will be the best course of action for Canada, but we have to get out of this environmental woke kind of ideology. We have to expand production, we have to expand mining, we have to drill more, we have to build infrastructure to refine and be able to ship our oil. And if we did all of this, Canada would be probably one of the richest countries in the world. We could reduce income tax, which would help people thrive more, give more people disposable income, which would also help our economy. It would attract some of the most talented people in the world, because now we could be a space just like the UAE or Qatar, where it's just like, they have so much revenue from their oil industry and from being the center of trade that the people can live there with very little income tax. So it becomes this really attractive place to live, then also stimulates the economy. This is the direction that Canada needs to be going, but I'm not 100% certain our political leaders are aligned with that vision. The second thing I think we could talk about is like, what does Donald Trump really want here? And you know, he's talking about fentanyl and all of that, and it's like, I don't really think fentanyl coming into Canada is a problem. Fentanyl is killing more Canadians than it is US per capita. I think most of the fentanyl is coming from China through Mexico. And so why is he punishing Canada? I think the main reason, as I just kind of sit here with this, is that he doesn't like our leadership. He doesn't like the direction Canada is headed, which is very much like this World Economic Forum, one world order, woke agenda. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like Justin Trudeau. And so he's probably not gonna like Doug Ford now either. So he doesn't like these people. And so he is basically saying, like, listen, if you're going to continue to promote this like one world order woke agenda, you're going to open the floodgates of immigration into your country, and those people that come to your country are eventually going to funnel into the United States. We're not going to stand for that anymore. We don't like this deal anymore. I think the other thing that he is seeing is that the jobs that came from the United States to Canada, and I'm sure there was benefits to these companies to do that because of healthcare or the dollar exchange. I'm sure there was reasons why these companies did that, but Trump wants those jobs back in America. And if that happens, Canada is going to be in a really, really tough position, because essentially Trump is going to incentivize these companies to build their cars, build whatever else that they're building in the United States, because he believes that the United States can handle it and can do that production. So the third thing would be is like, does Donald Trump really want Canada to become the 51st state? I know from that emotional place, I really push back on that. I really am like, hey, F you, even though I like Donald Trump, I'm like, hey, I want to remain Canadian in some respect. But if I step out of the emotion, if I step out of that Canadian pride, of that need to like defend, and I just weigh the pros and cons of a Canadian and American union. This is not even talking about letting go of our sovereignty completely. Imagine it was just like the EU. If we had that Canadian-American union, let's look at the pros, and we'll also look at the cons though, because we're removed from the emotion. The pros would be, we would have way more opportunity. We would have way more opportunity to travel throughout the United States. We would have probably lower taxes. We would have a stronger dollar. We'd have stronger military protection. So there's like a lot of benefits that go along with some sort of Canada-US union. For sure there is. It's undeniable. Now the negatives though are things like gun control, healthcare. There's a pharmaceutical industry. America has some of the most expensive drugs. There's like kind of their broken healthcare system, but our healthcare system is also broken. So there are a lot of negatives. And then just like being united and merged with the United States, I think a lot of Canadians are very resistant to, because they don't want to be seen as American. But if we look at that one too, it's like, Germany doesn't identify as Spanish people, even though they're in an EU economic union, right? And so the fact that America is like just kind of like a hated country, but that one, when I wrote it down, I was like, you know what? if America is hated, essentially, if someone ever declared war on America, they're essentially declaring war on Canada. So we're already in that deal anyways, but there is this element of people hating America and Canadians being separate from that. I think there are definitely arguments on both sides of the fence of this thing. And I'm not really 100% sure because I know that I am not getting the entire context. Like, I'm just making these arguments based on the information that I have. And I know that Donald Trump and even our politicians have a broader context of what's really going on here and what Donald Trump really wants. And so it's hard for me to make assessments from the circle of what I know with respect to this whole entire thing. But I think the most important thing that we all have to recognize here is that we can use this lack of emotional intelligence on both leaders and recognize that we can apply this into our own life. And I'm going to get into that of how you can apply having more emotional intelligence in your own life in a second. But before I do that, if you've gotten any value from this, or this is giving you a new perspective and you want to see more content just like this, then I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. It also trains the algorithm when you like to show you more content about developing more emotional intelligence and learning how to manifest anything that you've ever desired. So just like and subscribe for more. Okay, so how can these emotional responses and learning how to step out of it so we can make just rational decisions? If you think about this, it's like, think of like all of like the main characters in movies. Like, think of James Bond, for example. Calm, cool, and collected. Why? Because he's been able to remove the triggers that are in him so that he can make decisions that are sound. When we make decisions from emotion, we usually end up in regret. We usually end up in having to undo all of those, right? And so what we want to learn and be able to do is step one is we want to recognize, where are we being triggered? What is happening in our lives? Right now, we're being triggered by Donald Trump, but in our day-to-day life, what is triggering us? And the second thing that we want to do is uncover what button got pushed in us by that trigger. And so like some of my main buttons are failure, people not liking me, money. If that button gets pushed in me, essentially of me not having enough, or the pain of people not liking me, I am very quick to defend or get frustrated or go to any other source of not feeling the button underneath their original response. And the third thing is, once you identify what the button was in you, what the trigger was, you can then turn towards the pain. So it's like, if I turn towards, let's say I got an email and all of a sudden I found out I was going to lose some money, and then I immediately wanted to get angry and send an angry email back. What I would then do before I sent that email is I would look within and be like, well, what's this all about? Oh, it's about me not having enough. It's about the pain of not having enough. I can just turn towards it and say, am I okay here? Am I okay in this pain? The answer would be yes. And then I can send a calm, rational email, as opposed to like being a keyboard warrior and yelling back at everybody. And so finally, the last thing that we want to do is, after you've recognized and you've sat in this pain, you can just ask yourself, am I okay here, right? And if you are okay in that pain, if you can handle it, then you've just taken a step to undoing that trigger. So the ultimate goal is to move to this space where you're unfuckwithable. Think of like James Bond. It's like nothing gets to the guy, right? Well, why does nothing get to the guy? It's because he's removed all of the buttons. There are no more triggers for him, right? And so that's how he stays calm, cool-headed, and he makes decisions from a place of clarity. And that's ultimately the goal of spiritual growth, or learning how to become more emotionally intelligent. And that's what the leadership of Canada, and even in America, needs now. Is we need to step out of the emotion of all of this. We need to look at it from a place of intellect to make sure that we are not getting ourselves into a fight that we cannot win. I hope you enjoyed this. I've been doing a lot of political commentating lately. It's not really the direction of the channel, but regardless, I think it's all interesting to watch it all play out and apply these spiritual principles to what's happening on the world. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Don't forget, like and subscribe for more.